Hello, leaders. Hey, this is Paul Grau, and welcome to Run to Your Leadership Challenges, the daily show that equips team leaders to lead their way through the challenges they face every day. So today, I want to talk about the Paramount Channel series called Yellowstone and why I think it may be so popular. Before I begin, I want to remind you that John C. Maxwell will be having a free webinar on November 19th at 7:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Now, this webinar is a by invite only webinar, and it's going to be very special as it's pretty rare for John to just go on a webinar and teach it all, but he's going to be covering 3 of his laws, and I know that he's not going to disappoint at all. If you're interested in signing up for this webinar, please click on the link in today's show notes, or you can email me at paul@clcteam.com. Okay. So let's talk about the popularity of Yellowstone. Now, I don't know if you watch this show or not, but it's basically about a family who owns a crap load of land in Montana that happens to border Native American land. And just about everybody and their brother, it seems, wants to become a part of this land, or wants to buy this land, or wants to get this land back. And there's a whole lot more going on behind the scenes that makes it really interesting. But let me just emphasize that this is not a family-friendly movie by any means. I mean, the main family, the Duttons, have a way of just finding trouble, or trouble finds them. And they have a lot of enemies on the show. And it seems like even their friends are enemies at times. So you really don't know who's friends and who's enemies. And sometimes they're fighting with each other. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to spoil any of the stuff that happened on the first episode of season 4. But after starting out with a lot of action, the 2-hour special kind of just ended with nothing really hanging in the air. Which, I mean, this show is built around cliffhangers at the end of each show, it seems. Another thing about this show is that it seems to be a story about evil versus evil, or at least a story about how to repay evil with evil. And you could definitely tell after last night's premiere that season 4 will be full of all kinds of revengeful dealings between at least 4 or 5 different groups of people that all seem to be against the Duttons and vice versa. The odd thing is that no matter how bad any of the groups are, you always seem to be pulling for the Dutton family to win the battles. And they are no different than any of the other groups who are fighting. Maybe even worse than the other groups. Because, like I said, this show is just brutal and it's violent, but it's mega popular. So why is it that we can take sides with somebody who is brutally evil and dishonest and going out killing people? Why is it that we can enjoy watching violence and brutality on a TV show? I mean, this show is extremely popular, and yet every episode, one thing's for sure. Somebody's going to be killed. Now, one thing that comes to mind as I ponder these questions is that maybe all the fans put themselves in the place of somebody on the Dutton family. And let me get it straight. I'm a fan of the show too. I like it. But I'm not sure why I like it. But I do find myself cheering for the Dutton family. And I think some people may even cheer for the opponents. Maybe it's satisfying to see a family get revenge on others who are trying to take advantage of them or trying to take something from them. Maybe it's just the bluntness that the Dutton family has whenever they're talking to somebody or communicating with somebody. I mean, they don't beat around the bush. They just tell it like it is. Or maybe it's their desire to just live the way that they want to live and that they have been living for centuries, no matter what the law says. Now, I'm not sure why I even like this show, like I just mentioned. But I feel myself being drawn into each episode and maybe even justifying some of the brutal acts that are carried out on the show. So by now, you may be asking yourself, man, what does all this have to do with leadership? And truthfully, I'm not exactly sure if there is a connection. However, I have seen many terrible leaders in my lifetime who got away with a lot of wrongful stuff. And yet they just seem to be cheered on by many of their followers. Even when they did stuff against the policies, and or some illegal stuff in some cases. And when those leaders were caught and punished, their followers actually tried to defend their actions. So why is that? Why is it that some leaders do everything right and are not respected by their team members, while other leaders who do everything wrong are almost hailed as heroes? Personally, I've just never quite understood that. Today's challenge is for you to have a discussion with your team about the questions that I just brought up and allow everyone to voice their thoughts and opinions. Towards the end of the discussion, maybe ask them what type of leader they want to be remembered as. I mean, do they want to be remembered as the honest, law-abiding leaders who do things right all the time? Or do they want to be remembered as the dishonest, law-breaking leaders who did things the way they wanted to, no matter what the policies and laws said, regardless if it was wrong or right? Now, I'll admit, being the honest and law-abiding leader who does the right thing all the time may not be all that glamorous, but I believe it's the best way to lead. I'd love to get your thoughts and comments on this topic. So please feel free to leave me a comment on the platform you listen on, or send me an email at paul@clcteam.com. Hey, that's it for today. But don't forget to sign up for the free John Maxwell webinar that takes place on Saturday, November 13th at 7:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. And I think there's going to be some replays, so don't worry so much about the time. The link is in the show notes. And remember, this is by invite only, so you're not going to find this too many places. So be sure to sign up today. And if you know of other leaders who may be interested, pass the link on to them as well. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And until tomorrow, run to your challenges.